Good evening, all, and welcome to tonight's Young Investors Club webinar with myself, Jake Sewell. I'm the YIC president, and tonight we're joined with Stuart Walker, YIC ambassador from Victoria. Stuart's been involved with the club for a number of years, and we're very lucky to have him on tonight, sharing sort of his path and his story with us all, hearing a few of his things he did wrong and some tips and tricks he's got for the rest of us. So I didn't record the first very part of it, so I've just gone back and recorded this little intro. So we'll pick it up with Stuart, who's just started his presentation. So welcome all.
Sorry, one of the main things that we have encountered, one of the main issues we've encountered early on in our property investing journey is how to set up our finances correctly. We purchased 4 properties before we realised that we were doing it the completely wrong way. We relied on the advice of the banks, and unfortunately that got us into a considerable web. I guess that's the bank web that they like to set you up with to keep you as a long-term customer instead of being setting you up in a flexible manner in which you can continue to grow your portfolio. So our first purchase back in 2002, we used cash as the deposit for that property, and as a lot of you would be in the situation now where you're about to enter into the property market, you need to be able to confidently enter that and understand how to set up your finances so that you don't get into trouble down a track which can lead you into really difficult times. So initially you can use cash. I mean, you've obviously got to come up with a deposit to purchase a property. You can do that with either cash, you can use your equity in your parents' homes, or it may even be a gift from your parents as well. And it's those 3 things that you really do need to understand how to access before you do jump into purchasing that first property. And our club brokers are well versed in helping educate everybody, including yourselves, maybe your parents as well, in how to structure the finances and how to access equity in your parents' home, possibly, or accept a gift from your parents to help you get into property. Hopefully you've all been able to manage to save some sort of deposit, and that's why we're on this webinar at the moment, to try and take that step forward. But our first step into investing was via a cash deposit. We did get assistance from my father at the time, and he was instrumental in pushing us forward into investing. So the first one can be quite simple. It is accessing via cash, or, as I said, a gift or parents' equity. What that does is you go to the bank and you set up your loan, and they will use that first property plus the cash as security for the property to give you that loan. And you can see the green area there is the equity that we, or even the deposit. That's what that symbolises, and the debt would be the grey area there in the property. So in our first property we did that, and we got a lot of growth in the first 3 years, which was really nice. It's what you want and what you expect, all things going well. And it enabled us to build our home, which we currently live in at the moment. We used some of that growth in that first investment property there, and we took some of the equity out of that to help build our second home, or our principal place of residence. Now, what we did, how we did that, we went to the bank and said, can we do this? And they said, yes, we can use the security of your first property as we can use your first property as security for your principal place of residence. So now our principal place of residence began to grow in value as well, and it was secured by itself and the first investment property. Now, as we experienced further growth, it got to about 2010. We hadn't done anything for quite a few years there, but we'd always had that goal of building a property portfolio to help ideally retire early and have a comfortable retirement. So that was always a long-term goal for us. Now, as we realised 5 years had passed, time does fly by. We realised we had had significant growth in those two properties, and thought, why haven't we done anything else? We got to 2010 and thought, we really need to get a move on here. We've wasted quite a few years. We've had really good growth. The properties have done everything they're supposed to. We've got a lot of equity in there built up and locked away in those properties. It's not really doing much more for us, and we want to use it to help grow our portfolio. So we got to 2010. That was when I first came across the Property Club and Young Investors Club. And like everyone, I was a little bit skeptical of what the club was about, and it took me a long time to research and feel comfortable with it. So, Investment Property 2 in 2010, we purchased outside of the club, even though we were a member, because I was still evaluating. But we had enough equity to move on to probably 2 more properties at the time. So we went back to the bank, same bank again, and we said, can we move on? Can we build our portfolio? And they said, yeah, of course you can. You've got heaps of equity there. If you use a security, if you use property 1 as security and property 2 as security for your second investment property, you can have the loan. So we said, yep, that sounds great. So we moved on. We bought that one. So now we're at the stage where 3 properties are securing that second investment property, which I'll come to the point of this in a minute. But at the same time, we came to move on. Oops, sorry, skipped ahead of you there. To purchase investment property 3 in 2011. And we went back to the bank and we said, can we get another loan? I've got a lot of equity here. We've got good income. We should be able to support this additional property. I said, yes, of course you can. You can use investment property 1, your own home, investment property 2, and the one you're going to purchase as security for your latest purchase. And we said, excellent, that sounds really good. So we went ahead with it. So what we weren't really aware of is that these properties were being set up in a way that the banks want to set you up so that you get locked in as a long-term customer. It creates a bit of a web, and it's really, really difficult to unwind, as we discovered, because it probably took us to this point. Well, actually not this point, we came to the point afterwards where we wanted to buy investment property number 4 or property number 5, where they eventually turned around and said, you have a lot of equity there, you've got enough income, but we've reached a limit where we're prepared to lend a level of risk, where we're prepared to lend to an individual customer, which took us by surprise, which was quite disappointing for us. We had high ambitions of creating a large property portfolio. We had all of our properties had done the right thing. They'd all grown in value. They were affordable. They were doing a lot of the right things. We had ample equity to move on to another property, but they said no. So we turned around and said, oh, well, what do we do now? So that's when we re-engaged with the Property Club and started talking to one of the club brokers, who started to reveal to us the web that the bank had set for us, and we started making plans to try and unwind that. This process took probably 12 to 18 months to unravel, which was a very painful process. It was very difficult dealing with the bank at this time, where we knew if we went to another bank, they could help us to continue to build a property portfolio, and they had said that they could, but the bank that we were currently with had actually turned around and said, no, we're not going to actually allow that to happen, because we're not going to allow you to release any of your equity in your properties because of the first investment property was security for all three others, as you see that the purple arrows here. So investment property 1 ended up being security for itself, the principal place of residence, investment property 2, and investment property 3. So all of our equity, majority of our equity was built up in investment property 1. But because we wanted to access some of that equity, to access it, we needed to go to another bank. But the bank we were with wouldn't allow us to take that away because it was security for the other 3 properties. So it's a it can be a bit confusing, and some of this, but it's quite easily avoided once you understand how. So what we did, we spent some time, or considerable time, talking with a club broker. We gave him all of our financials, the current bank that we were with, the interest rates and the loan amounts and the debt levels and incomes, and we said, how do we start unwinding this mess that we've made for ourselves? So eventually we were able to restructure some of the loans. This did take considerable time and a lot of difficulty with the bank we were with, but we were able to segregate investment property 1 and take it to another bank and set up a line of credit and access the equity within that investment property 1. So a line of credit, we're able to, it acts as a flexible access to the cash that you've got locked up in your property. So we're able to use, so it's 2 separate loans. So we still had the one loan against the investment property 1, but it also had another loan against it called a line of credit that we're able to access pretty much as cash. So we're able to take the deposit out of that line of credit and use that to move on to very, very quickly onto investment properties 4, 5, and 6, which we would have liked to have done probably 2 years sooner than that, but because of the web that the bank had got us into, it made it very, very difficult. So we've been able to unwind that with the help of the property club. We certainly wouldn't be in the position we are at the moment with, we now have 10 properties within our portfolio. We certainly wouldn't be in that position without the help of the club broker and property club. And our most recent property settled in January. That was number 10. We've got properties all around the country now. We've got 4 in Victoria, 4 in Queensland, 1 in Darwin, 1 in Western Australia. And it's everything that we've done since we joined the property club has moved along very well. Back in 2010, we spent 2 years having a look at what property club does and the support that it provides, but it wasn't until 2 years later that we decided to jump in and actually follow their path and follow their advice and use their research and use the club brokers and all the benefits and that come along with membership there. So we purchased. We've now purchased 6 properties through the property club. The first 4 were all in Victoria, and I guess that's one of the keys there as well, is we're investing in our own backyard where we should have been diversifying a little bit sooner. All of those 4 are back down in southeast Victoria. We've got the 2 up on the Gold Coast, 2 in Brisbane. So we've got a nice diverse portfolio there spread around the country. I wish we had some in Sydney, but the way things have worked out, we don't have it in there. But I think everyone would love to have one in Sydney at the moment. And some of the experiences that we've had with Property Club, I don't think there's been one purchase there where everything has gone absolutely smoothly. But the difference has been, while we've been in the club, that you've got other people around you who are there to support you, who have been through situations before, who you can use their advice and their guidance and their experience to help you understand how you can effectively manage your way through those issues. So certainly the power of numbers within Property Club is a real differentiator. And so you're able to use the advice of people, even on body corporates, and also when you're purchasing property, using a solicitor, because you will likely have multiple people doing the same thing at the same time, using the same resources. You can reduce your expenditure on things like solicitors if you encounter a problem. We did encounter a problem at one stage where we did work through that with a solicitor, but because we had other Property Club members in the same boat as us, we were able to pool our resources, instead of having to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a solicitor to get out of a certain situation. We were able to spread that across multiple members, and I think we were only out of pocket maybe $500 each for that particular experience. As well as the safety numbers as well, we were able to command better discounts and better inclusions with each of the purchases. So whether that be rental guarantees or reduced body corporates or paid body corporate for the first couple of years, or it might be a cash rebate or paid stamp duty or something like that. It's the power of numbers that can command those sort of discounts and inclusions for you. A few of the common mistakes that a lot of people make, including myself, and that's something you should always be aware of. If you make a mistake, you learn from it, and that's what we do within the club as well. Everybody within the club has made a mistake at some point along the line. Kevin Young is the most successful property investor in Australia. He's made a ton of mistakes, and he educates all of us on how to avoid those now. And it's really a really powerful message. But we bought in the wrong location several times, using what we thought was research. Our number 4 property was purchased as a display home, which is our most, we call it our, I guess we've held on to it. Just, it hasn't cost us a lot of money, but it was one of the biggest lessons that we've learned. One, we thought we were doing the research, but compared to the research that Property Club puts into properties, it didn't even come close. It cost us time, and it cost us money. And it was a interesting, painful experience once again, but it certainly taught us a few lessons, which I'm always happy to relay to people if they're going through that same situation. The wrong tax planning as well. We certainly didn't have a great accountant when we started out. I think we outgrew them, and when we weren't getting the right responses, and we were able to almost educate our accountant on what our tax returns should look like, then we knew that we'd outgrown them. And so we've moved on to a club recommended accountant now, who we've been with for the last 4 years. And actually today we got our tax return back from him, and it's exceptional assistance, and he's responsive, and he set us up in the right manner so that we maximise our tax returns. We're currently set up at the moment that we actually don't pay any tax. All of our taxes come back to us on our payday, and it's something that we show you how to do and how to maximise your returns and maximise your cash flow as well. As you saw from my example before, which I hope I was able to communicate clearly, but we set up our funding and our loans the wrong way, and that was really painful and sets you back a long way. So really, really important to get your loans set up right in the first place. I can't stress that enough. The wrong tenant. If you get the wrong property in the wrong location, you're going to get the wrong tenant as well. We're dealing with property agents. You've got to be very wary that you're attracting the right tenant. That means getting a good property that's well maintained, be responsive, it's in a good location, close to amenities, and at the right price as well. If you don't have the right mindset, if you're listening to the wrong people, there's a lot of negative people out there about property, and it never works. I saw an article come through today that said that comparing the last 10 years, what the best investment vehicle was, whether it be shares or trusts or managed funds and property came out on top once again. There's always going to be people talking it down. Just be careful who you listen to. There are a lot of negative people out there. And assemble a good team, people who are looking out for you and trying to help you get to where you want to go. Back in 2010, one of the goals we set for ourselves was to accumulate, to have a portfolio of 10 properties in 10 years. We've surpassed that goal. We've hit the 10 properties, and we will look to continue to build that. But we're only able to do that because we've started using an accountant who understood what we were trying to do. We used a broker who knew what we were trying to do and was able to not only untangle the web that we got into, but give us the right advice on how to set ourselves up successfully. And that broker has gone on to help us with setting up. I've lost count of the number of loans and number of refinances we've done, but also with our self-managed super fund as well. Solicitors and conveyancers. We prefer solicitors because they will advise you on contracts rather than a conveyancer just transferring a property into your name. And we've seen the benefit of that with one of our purchases. So I highly recommend using a solicitor rather than a conveyancer. And if you've got multiple people from the club buying through the same vendor, then you're going to get the benefits there as well. Financial planners, just make sure that they are conversant with property, and get your insurances set up for income protection and things like that to make sure that you're not putting your family at risk or yourself at risk if you become ill or unable to work and things like that. A property mentor, people like ourselves who are there for your benefit, you can lean on, you can ask for advice. We've all been through. I don't think there'd be anyone in the club who would have been through a situation that any of you would be encountering. And like-minded investors as well. We have a number of events throughout the year where we get together. There's an event in South Bank in a few weeks' time, where you can start meeting and mingling with like-minded investors and bouncing ideas off. One of the best experiences I had was when I went up to Darwin with the property club, and we spent a weekend up there just talking to other property club and young investors club members, bouncing ideas across each other. We had 3 busloads of people driving around the Darwin area looking at different properties. And it was a really positive atmosphere and one of the best experiences I've had in property. That really got us kick-started with the property club as well. So yeah, lessons there are get yourself set up correctly in the first place, and certainly avoid cross-collateralization or cross-securitization. Use solicitors rather than just conveyancers. There'll always be an issue. Just be prepared to encounter issues with because it's not a simple process. There's so many aspects of purchasing a property. You do need that support around you from all of those people that I mentioned just before. there's always safety numbers, and yeah, assemble a good positive team around you to help you achieve the goals that you've set for yourselves. And most of all, have fun, because yeah, we certainly do. Yeah. So I might hand over back to you, Jake. But if there's any questions come through there, I'd be happy to talk through any of those.
All right, brilliant stuff there. Thanks, Stuart. So we've got there's a couple of questions that have come through there. One saying, do you have club approved accountants? Yes, we do. So I live in Queensland, so I can, obviously suggest people up this way, but Stuart's in Victoria. So we do have, they're not internal accountants, but they're independent to us, but they do specialise in investment property. So what I might do there, Sash, and I believe that's from, is I'll when I send out some information later on, I can pass on some details there as to who sort of our people use in different states. So I might just look. I'll quickly. Do we have any other questions there for Stuart? Just before okay, Victoria. So yeah, I'll definitely get some details out to you there regarding that one. So I'm just going to quickly run through this. Now, it's probably a topic that I could speak in greater lengths at, and I've done it at workshops in person, but I'm going to quickly go through property selection. So younger people and potential first-time buyers, even depending on what stage you are at acquiring a portfolio, you might your ability to borrow might be at the lower end. So around about the 350 mark. That's a number that we see quite often with our young people. So really, at the end of the day, at that price point, you've got two options. You generally got, you can look at the 2 or the 3 bed townhouse, or a 1 bed, close to the CBD. So, the townhouse, yes, it's a bigger dwelling. You might think you get a bit more bang for your buck, but the thing you need to look at as well is, we're after long-term capital growth. So where exactly is that property? What tenants you're attracting, that sort of thing. So I'm just going to quickly go through this for you all. So here's our first example. So like I said, we're going to work on a capacity. Let's say you've done your financial wealth check with your club broker. He's come back and said, Stuart, you're able to borrow up to $360,000. Talk to your mentor. Let's see what you can get. So we're looking at one example here. Now these, I haven't named the suburbs, but I'm up here in Queensland, so I'm comparing two properties that potentially are on the stock list at the moment, and the incomes amounts I've been using. These are actuals. So first example here, like I said, 2 bed, 2 bath, 2 car townhouse. It's 35 kilometres from the CBD. Expected rent there, 350 to 370. So it is a good yielding property, and after tax, it'll pretty much pay for itself. So I guess on a property like this, tenant wise, you're looking at potentially 2 singles or maybe a couple with a young kid or another single person living with them. An average income for this particular area is around about $615 a week. So that was a townhouse option. Now let's look at, say, the 1 bed unit option. So this is, again, same purchase price, but this one's a lot closer to the CBD. So this is only 5 kilometres out. Again, the rent's going to be very, very similar to that, but you're attracting a different type of tenant. So you're potentially getting just a single person or maybe a professional couple. It is only 1 bed, so you're not going to have multiple couples or 2 singles there, but maybe 1 single or a professional couple. We can see there, the average income in the area, so $1,130. So the previous one we're looking at $615. So you can see there the actual income of the people residing in these properties is a little bit higher. So I guess some points to consider there is who's renting the property. What do they do for work? What's their background? And are their incomes likely to increase? So you're hoping for the yield to increase as well as the value. We know yields can push up the value. So are they going to be able to afford that rent increase when you're trying to increase that? And what are the people who occupy those properties going to be doing? They're going to be doing lots of socialising, entertaining at the property, which can add to wear and tear, or are they more likely to be, socialites eating out a little bit more and doing things like that? So there are a couple of things to consider. And I'm going to quickly run through some floor plans. Okay, so let's decide. Okay, I want to go for that, the one bed option. So there's plenty of options out there, but we really want to have a good understanding of how people want to live, and a lot depends on where the property is, who your demographic is, and what's important to that sort of area. So again, I've sort of got my Queensland hat on here a little bit, but the same rules apply to most areas. So let's have a look at the first one here. So this is the first bedder. So you can have a look there. Look, if you've probably all been into properties, but you need to sort of visualise a little bit here. So have a quick look at that floor plan there. Okay, now I'm going to flick over to a few issues with this. So let's have a look at the first one here. Look, and they may not be issues, but there may be better options out there. So have a look at this one. You've got a long, narrow floor hallway, which is sort of wasted space a little bit. I know we've got some storage there, but it's a bit of a wasted space, that. You can see the L-shaped kitchen, small kitchen. So look, they can be good. It opens it up a little bit more, but if you're entertaining here with someone here, you've got your back to them. It doesn't really have that open plan living that's sort of more desired nowadays. Now, this is a big one. This is a big faux pas, really. I mean, to get to the bathroom, so if you've got a visitor, they've got to go through your bedroom to get to the bathroom. That's never ideal. So we've probably all been to people's houses where that's the case. Not the nicest thing. So that's it's not a deal breaker, but it's certainly not ideal. And you can see there I've got the compass on there, so west facing. That's not a massive thing either, but you get that afternoon sun in. So potentially a one bed unit, they might be professional couples, so they might not be at home at that time, but ideally there may be better options than that. And another one which a lot of you probably aren't aware of or picked up on, you can see the internal size here. So apart from it being quite small, there are particular lenders, you'd have to check with your broker, but particular lenders who have issues with anything under 50 square metres internal, and they won't sometimes lend you as much money. So apart from the fact it's smaller, you might not be able to leverage as high as you'd like to. So they're things to look at. So let's now go ahead and have a look at another one bedroom floor plan here. Okay, so I'll let you just get your head around that one a little bit more, and you can probably see quite a few differences there. So look, here's the entry here. So open plan, we all know that's sort of the modern way, and how the young professionals and whatnot like to have their place. So that's a big tick there. Island kitchen. So the kitchen, in my opinion, is a much better setup. You can be cooking and doing all that whilst conversing with your guests and whatnot. Two-way bathroom. So that's always an awesome, floor plan there. So you can lock off this door. So you've just got it acts as an ensuite, but when you've got guests, you can close off this door here, and people have got access to your bathroom. So it's always good having it separate, but being able to have a two-way is great as well, a two-way bathroom, because let's say there was a wall there and you got friends over and you need to go to the bathroom and you just come out of the shower. I don't know, but a bit awkward. So that's a good setup like that. Walk-in robe's always good, especially in a one-bedder here. You struggle for storage sometimes on places like that, so a walk-in wardrobe anywhere is great. And look, north facing, so this is sort of the open plan onto the terrace. The bedroom leads onto the terrace as well, which is great, but north facing, so you're going to get that north sun, going to get heaps of natural light. And the internal, so it's a good size. A general rule over in, say, Queensland is 60, 80, 100, so 60 for a one-bedder, 80 for a two, 100 for three. Some states a little bit smaller. I know potentially Melbourne and New South Wales in particular are a little bit smaller often over there, but that's sort of a good rule of thumb over here. So look, that was a very rushed thing there, but and I'll probably expand on that a little bit more, looking at different floor plans and that. But it's just a good quick overview Now, this is being recorded. I've spoken very quickly, so you can go back and have a good look at that sort of stuff. But yeah, I hope that was helpful for you. So I guess, points to consider. So first of all, establish how much you can borrow. And why you're doing it. It's for the long-term growth. Obviously, you need some good rental yield to be able to hold on to that asset. But ideally, it's about holding it on for the long term and getting that good growth. And then we'll work out what's within your budget. We looked at a townhouse and some one-bedders there. There are other properties obviously out there, but you've got to weigh up the positives and that there. And we spoke about, the demographic, what your tenants are, what they do for work. Is your income going to be increasing to afford the increase in living expenses? And look, in the end of it, take the emotion out of it. It's a business. Buying a property portfolio it's a business. So sometimes we get a bit emotionally attached to and let that affect our decisions. But you're running a business here of property investing, so you really need to have that mindset. So a quick one here, our upcoming events. Stuart spoke briefly before about the Young Investors Club workshop we've got there in the Travel Lodge. So really looking forward to that one. We've already got about 50 people registered for that, so that should be a great event. I've also got a couple more dates there announced for Sydney and Perth. So Sydney in September and Perth later in October. A couple of great venues there. So each event's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be educational. We're going to have a social aspect to it as well. We're going to have some really good guest presenters there, like some of our brokers, accountants, potential researchers. So that's going to be really good. And I believe, Stuart, we've got another one in Shepparton on the 20th of August, so the following day. So we'll get some more details out for that. And after tonight's webinar, I'll also send you out some details via Eventbrite, so you can register for those events. Did you have anything you wanted to add there, Stuart, before we close off?
No, just you focused on that point before about property investing being a business, and then it really that's very true. We do treat it as a business. We set ourselves up so that we segregate it from our personal lives. We don't, and again that comes back to setting up your finances correctly as well. Setting up the income and the expenditure for your properties as a separate. Not an entity, but a separate piece there. Come tax time, it makes it a lot simpler. And again, speaking to club brokers or other property mentors or members, the common theme you'll come across is that as you get more involved in it, it is a business, and you need to focus on that and maintaining it as a business.
Absolutely. So look, just quickly, I know we've run over time, but we've had a couple of good questions come through, so I might just read them out and I might respond. And Stuart, if you've got anything to add here. So I've had one come through here. Do you advise someone who is getting in a position to buy first investment to buy only new? They put here for most depreciation advantages. So look, the thing with buying new versus second hand, yes, depreciation plays a part of it. The big thing there is the works component. So that's the building component, which you can claim back over 40 years. Check with your accountant on that. But so anything post 1985, you can claim your 2.5% there. So obviously, the newer it is, the more negative gearing component you've got going on there with that. But also, it's important, to know builders' warranties and things like that. So if you start buying something that say over in Queensland's older than 6 years, 3 months, and it's out of builder's warranty, you've got an issue with that building. Guess who's responsible? It's not the builder. So if you're buying an older property, you're buying someone else's issues really, and it just adds to that ongoing maintenance and holding costs of the property. So that's why I've bought predominantly new. I have bought a couple of second hand, but they've never been more than a couple of years old. Because of that, just the risk factor. So you don't know what you're potentially getting when it's second hand, what the reason why the property's being sold, and you can just inherit a lot of other problems there. But a big component is holding on to the asset too. So do you have anything to add there, Stuart?
And also, if you're buying, no, you're right there with you don't know when you're buying second hand what hidden problems you're inheriting. and also with a new or near new property, you're going to maximise your tax benefits. You're also going to attract better tenants as well, and I think that's really, really key. You're going to attract better tenants. You're going to attract higher rents, and that's always good for your portfolio. And also reduce maintenance. The less time you have to spend maintaining that property, the better.
Yeah, exactly right. Look, I've just got one more here. Look, we've had a few come through, but potentially we can take these offline. But I've just had one here come through. What if interest rates go to 7%? Will rent cover loan payments? Banks are making it harder for interest-only loans. So, look, in the future, interest rates may go to that. A good indicator, though, is if you look at banks and what fixed rates they're offering over a longer term. So, 5-year, 7-year loans, and you can actually fix in interest rates for some under 5%. So, and banks don't miss out. So they seem to their predictions are that interest rates aren't going to rise significantly like we've seen in the past. And you can even go on the ASX futures predictions, and it's well under those sort of numbers. I know we've got a broker online, I think, but I won't unmute him. But CBA actually offers a 15-year fixed rate, and I think that is around about 7% at the moment. So if you're that worried, you could potentially lock in a rate like that. But I haven't seen any indications that rates are going to go up to that sort of price. It is true that it's harder for interest-only loans, and they are sort of starting to load a bit of a premium on that compared to P&I. So that's another thing you need to consider. So I've got a bit of a mixture. So Stuart's got 10 properties. I've got 6 investments. I've got a couple that are on P&I. The others are still on interest loan only. But potentially I'll be converting a few of those to P&I as well to reduce down some of that debt. So what about yourself, Stuart? Have you had obviously, we've been affected a little bit by interest-only loans, getting a bit of a premium put on them. Have you got any of yours on P&I, or where are you at with yours?
Yeah, I do. Actually, sorry, not just yet. I mean, typically we've structured ourselves as interest-only with with all of the loans except for our principal place of residence. But more recently, with the changes in finance, we're looking. Today I'm working with our broker to I think one of our investment loans we're going to P&I, and we're getting 4.19% with principal and interest on that investment loan. So I'm going to do that. But certainly we always keep an eye on the rates and always got to be aware of the changes in finance and how it can affect you. But yeah, we're happy with that sort of rate at the moment.
Yeah, and like we said before, look, this is a business, so you've got to be on top of what's happening with rates, what could potentially change with your loans. The threat of rates going up and then not covering rent repayments, well, the two sort of go hand in hand as well. So, if we're in a phase of low interest rates, low inflation, if interest rates were to rise, then, historically the rents are going to rise along with it. So it all sort of, one goes along with the other. So, but look, you got to be up to speed with what's happening in the lending environment for sure. Once you've got a property portfolio, Stuart, as I am, but look, not concerned with the way rates going up to 7% and things like that. Not at all. All right, so look, there's a couple more questions, but I think we'll leave it there tonight. We've had a pretty good discussion. So I'll shortly send out a copy of this recording, along with some other bits and pieces there. So please feel free to email me any feedback if there's some more topics you want discussed. And yeah, if there's anything I can be of assistance with. So I'll send that out shortly. But I'd like to thank you all for attending tonight, and thanks again to Stuart. That was fantastic. It's always great to hear what other people have done, and and you can see we've all made mistakes, but it's how you get through those. And Stuart, 10 properties, I mean, that's an amazing effort and something for us to all strive towards. So thanks very much, everyone, and thanks, Stuart, and look forward to having you online next time and seeing you live at one of our workshops as well.
Yeah, it'd be great to see you all there in Melbourne if you're available. Yep.
Okay. Beautiful. Well, thanks everyone. Jake. Thanks, Stuart. And look, I'll leave it open just for another couple of minutes. If you've got any questions you want to send through in the chat box, I can answer them offline. But otherwise, we'll talk to you guys soon. So thanks very much and have a good night.